how is emotional intelligence or emotional quotient, for that matter, different from intelligence quotient, IQ?
Oh, that's easy. The IQ is a numerical, quantitative measure of your logical cognitive capabilities. And so that is something that is pretty much constant all throughout your life, from the time you're born till you die, essentially. Your IQ hardly changes just by a few percent. EQ, on the other hand, your emotional quotient, develops exponentially from the time you're born, age 60 maybe. And so that is what the whole study or whole work we are doing is all about, because people don't know about what emotional intelligence comprises and how it can affect and benefit our daily life, anger management, fear, I mean, love, hate, all these things, all our emotions are part of this intelligence. And managing our emotions is the key thing. If we don't know how to manage our anger or our fear, then we are, we have our back against the wall. So the answer to the question is, it is imperative. It is imperative. In fact, EQ evaluation, your emotional quotient evaluation, is a standard part of any job application in the US and other countries. In India, very few companies even know about EQ evaluation, and so we have a long ways to go. The parent doesn't know about how to manage the emotions of the child. I mean, they know intrinsically, but really have not any kind of structured understanding by reading or viewing as to how they can manage a child that is unmanageable. I mean, going to a psychiatrist, as I said, is really the last resort. So I hope that answers that question. Anything else?
I'll open the floor to others. If anybody wants to ask a question, I would sort of encourage you. You can just raise your hand or unmute your mic and then ask the question.
So good evening. I'm first time attending your this webinar. I'm Hana Akhtar from Delhi Public School, Noida, and really nice to hear you and understand, especially the functioning of counselors and psychologists when we are dealing with young minds and especially in schools. Yes, we are struggling with the emotional quotient, and we do take student, and you know how the nursery admissions are, and children from very good families with high IQs, they come to our schools and to many prestigious schools, but managing their EQ later stages, it is becoming a challenge. And especially in this pandemic situation, we as counselors are facing a lot of problem, and probably doing some work, enhancing our skills will definitely help us all in the school, and especially with the young minds. I'm really delighted attending this webinar. Thank you so much. And one thing, sir, which I want to understand from you is that we have limited resources when we have to, assess emotional quotient. And you were talking about referrals to psychiatrists or doctors, because as counselors, yes, we have real difficulty. Even referring them to counselors is a big task for teachers. Still, in many schools, we are facing this. When they come to us, we see a lot of cases where the children really need medical interventions and maybe very professional interventions. But the scope of referring them to therapists and all, it becomes very difficult, and we have limited resource, and we have to depend on the hospitals. We usually refer, keeping in mind a lot of things, we refer them to the hospitals. This is one thing which really needs to be worked on, because we need a lot of people, not only from the medical field, but from different fields, which you were just sharing, like in US, when the companies, they look into the emotional intelligence. I think we all need this in school setups also.
Yes, and I agree with you. The problem is, like you said, lack of resource. Okay. Now, the principals used to have a lot of authority and power when I was growing up. Today, yes, a principal cannot do anything without the approval of the owners or the administrator of the school. Now,
Yes, sir.
people at a much higher level have really little interest in the emotional well-being of the child. I'm sorry to say that. It's more become a money game. So unless there is direction from top management, the principal, even if they want to, are unable to do. Now, one more point here. It starts with the parent. The child spends 16 hours a day with the parent, 18 hours, and maybe 6 hours in school. Now, the parent needs to be educated on the value proposition. The moment the parents realize, whether it's through PTAs or whether it's through attending webinars like this, they don't cost that much money. And a psychiatrist costs 2,000 rupees an hour. So it's a very simple math to me. If a school is interested, they can organize a webinar and they can have some experts come in and tell them about the subject, tell them the benefits. I mean, the main thing I'm going to get to in a moment here is what are the benefits? The benefits are immense. A happy child, better grades, lower dropout, and schools have become very competitive. They don't have to spend lakhs of rupees in advertising promotion. If they're viewed as being proactive and instituting new methods and procedures for educating the child, then God bless them. So in answer to your question, I think the answer is not as drastic as you are indicating. It's a matter of wanting to do something. We spend in schools lakhs of rupees on activities, social programs, outings, sports, theater, drama, arts. Hey, this is more important than most of it. Because if a child is not emotionally healthy, they will never be academically successful. So it starts from the house, it starts from the home, it starts from the parents, it goes to the teachers. Then, when there is a groundswell, then only would the principal go to management and say, hey, we should better get serious about this. This is an important subject.
No, I do agree. This is really neat of our, and thankfully, I'm associated with the school which is really working very hard. We are having a wellness class in the evening for almost till class 11, because 12th, yes, because they have their, though we want to intervene, but we are having monthly for them. And it's a very important class. When we talk about wellness, it's not only physical wellness which we do with yoga and meditation. And I think this program will definitely equip me better. Thank you so much.
No, not at all. No,
Thank you.
I,
Thank you. And I think Mr. Chadda wants to ask another question.
sure.
Good evening, Basantji. Good morning from my end. I'm watching your program from USA at this moment, and I really enjoying. But it's not a question which I want to ask. In fact, one of the gentlemen asked a very, very valid question to my mind. What is the
Yes.
difference between IQ and EQ?
Yes.
He did ask this question, and if you allow me, I would like to take 2 minutes answering this question. You
Oh,
know,
sure.
yeah, there are six subtle differences, very clear difference between IQ and EQ, which I want to highlight. The first
Sure.
difference is that IQ will help a person to get into the job, but EQ will help the person to succeed at a job.
And to
That's
keep
one
the job.
difference. Yeah, to succeed, sustain with the job. That's one difference. The second difference is the IQ will assess the ability to learn or understand. That's the IQ. But EQ will be the ability to use your emotions and logical skills in a better way. So the
Yes.
logical skills are coming from the EQ. IQ will help you to understand that. And IQ, third difference is that IQ will convince someone by giving facts. That's IQ. But EQ will convince someone by giving reasoning, logical reasoning. That's the
Yes.
important of the EQ.
Yes.
Then IQ will get you into the job. Sorry, IQ will get you succeed in the school or college, but EQ will get you succeed in your life. So it's a lifespan process. So the
Beautiful.
contribution of the IQ is 20% in success in life, and EQ contribute 80%. It's a 20-80 ratio. There's enough empirical evidence. So I thought,
Yes.
let me
Yes.
share this. They are the major difference between IQ and EQ. I hope the gentleman must be clear about this. I like the question, because this question I number of time get from people when I conduct program for the corporate world on IQ. So I thought I will share
Yes.
this. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for giving. Yeah.
That's good clarification. Dr. Chadha is a very famous expert in emotional intelligence. He's a dear friend of mine. He's taking this time all the way from the United States to participate, and I'm very grateful to him.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chadha. Anybody else would like to ask any question?
I would like to add something.
Yes,
I liken EI as versus psychotherapy or psychiatry, like homeopathy and allopathy. So we have a child that is unmanageable. We have any person who is mentally unwell. Now we can go the homeopathy route, which is non-invasive, which is does not require prescription, quote. By that I mean chemical based medicines, and we can try that. If for any reason the situation is acute, it's a complete, their depression or what have you, then maybe yes, we should go to the available pharmaceutical solutions. So I kind of liken EI and to like it's the homeopathic solution to mental health. I don't know if that makes sense, but
fair enough. Good analogy.
Can I button, please? I'm Rachna here.
Yeah, hi, Rachna.
Good evening to all of you. So I am a school counselor for the past 15 years or so, and I have been with the college also earlier. So EQ was first introduced in my life in maybe around 2004 when I read Daniel Goleman and his many books. So yes, like Hena ma'am over here pointed out, this is something which is required in our schools. But so I would like to just point out that though there's, it may not be coming in as per se as education building of emotional quotient per se, but we do have what the CBSE has given us some life skill classes in which we may be talking to students about building their communication skill, how to become assertive, or how to manage their emotions, how to manage the anger. So yes, it is not happening in a continuous basis in the schools, but a lot of EQ development for students, especially the 8th class onwards, is happening in bits and pieces. What we need to do is make it a continuous and a longer process in schools. In CBSE, I'm talking about not a high-end school, a regular middle-income kind of a school. This is what my background and my information has, my experience has been. I just want to share that with you.
No, I agree, but I am looking for a little bit more of a structured, formal approach to dissemination of this knowledge of EQ. It's there, it's sporadic, it's in part of skill development, somewhere you hear it in part of other mental health programs. There is no one concerted. I think it's important that we all recognize my major problem here in dealing with this is lack of education and awareness. If people become educated and knowledgeable on the value of what we are talking about, the entire world, the whole paradigm will change overnight. And so that is the problem here, is people just don't know. If I give you something for free and you don't know what it is or why you should be taking it, you will refuse because you don't understand.
Yeah, yes, and therein, like you said, our role as school counselors comes in a lot because with my interaction with so many school counselors, because we keep having these meets in Delhi, most of us do make an attempt to educate the teachers and the parents. Of course, the students are there about what is EQ and how relevant is it and how it is required, and giving them tips on how to maybe build it up, help the child build it up. A few tips, of course, because it's only a half an hour, 45 minutes that we get to speak with them. But yes, I agree with you. A more consistent effort would go a long way. So I hope the CBSE is hearing you, and the IB board is hearing you, and the ICSC, etc., state board that is listening to you there.
What is even more surprising is there are PhD psychiatrists. I mean, thousands of them that are on my network, and 6 years of getting a PhD in psychiatry, right? And they admit that yes, it was discussed. Yes, we had a class or two, but there was no real formal emphasis on emotional health, emotional intelligence. I mean, yes, maybe emotional health, but that's a very vast topic. So it's surprising. It's surprising to me that is still the case because the curriculum is so outdated. You know, this is a phenomena relatively where people are. The learning curve that I've had in the past 4 or 5 years is stupendous. I didn't know how to emotional intelligence 5 years ago.
True, true. A lot of it depends on how much you grab it from here and there, books and other places. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachnaji.
Have a structure when we are doing a referral. Maybe we'll start with the therapies and maybe step by step.
Yes, no, just learn about it. Buy the book, attend webinars on YouTube alone. Sign up. You can see 50 YouTube or TEDx talks on emotional intelligence every day. Once that parent understands that there is an alternative, a simpler, easier alternative, then they should go that first. Now, like homeopathy and allopathy. I mean, cancer cannot be cured by homeopathy, I think, but almost everything else can. So why not use artificial intelligence? Now, everybody that has attended this webinar to please our training and certification program, the 4 week, 1 hour per week program. It'll answer a lot of the questions that are there, people who spoke and people that are simply listening. And there are a lot of programs today being offered by some big education institutions. I don't know the value comparison of what they charge and what we are and what we have and what they don't. But I would at least buy the books that I have written. They're very nominal priced, and that's a starting point. And as you start understanding the subject matter, then you'll see how, like myself, I've just been fascinated, intrigued by it, and my passion is to somehow get this message across to our countrymen, to our parents, to our mothers and fathers, and to students, and to teachers, and to principals, and to administrators. It's coming. It's coming very quickly because there is a momentum growing, and my phone has now stopped ringing in the last few months, which was not the case before. So anybody else with any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Dr. Chadha, you were wanting to say something?
Manish, it's not a question, but Sanjay, it's not a question. And it's a wonder. I want to thank you. It's a wonderful listening you. If you allow me, I will just take 1.5 minutes, not more than that, to tell to the participants why high EQ is required.
Right.
Conditions which have been empirically verified. I'm not saying just on the hearsay. It's all data that I can present you whenever it's required by any. So the following are, I think you must keep in mind. Number one, when high EQ is required, when you have not achieved all you expected you would. To handle this, you require high EQ. Number two, when pressure seems to be ever present and growing on you, to handle again, you require high EQ. When you know you can do better, but you don't know how to do it,
Right.
EQ will help you. When you feel that your boss or your senior does not understand you properly, see from that angle. So it's a lifespan. When your subordinates or juniors don't seem to work and take initiative, to handle again, you require high EQ. When you feel low and don't know how to handle it, sometimes you're feeling low and then you don't know how to handle it. The high EQ will help you to understand it. When your income is not as high as others, high EQ for that. When you are not being promoted with the readiness and speed which you expect, you deserve, you're not getting that. To handle that situation, high EQ will help you. When you have new responsibility that stretch you beyond your limits, you have limited, but the new responsibility limit is going beyond limit. It's high EQ will help you handling that. When your performance has dropped in the recent past, you find it will help you. And lastly, when you want to think out of the box, innovative creativity is high EQ will help you. What I've given you the listed elements, they're all empirical tested, there's empirical evidence for that. I hope this will be end for the participant. On behalf of Sanjay, I'm saying it's very important. And even I will recommend, I just heard this, the course, certificate course with Sanjay have starting, I think it's very important to get into depth of this, and you can develop. There's a good news that EQ can be developed. There
Yes.
are methods, there are techniques over that, and it's not a static, it's a dynamic, it goes over the period. Thank you for giving me the
Thank you.
opportunity. Thank you, Manish.
Dr. Chatter, I want to add something to what you said. There are 4 pillars in our life. There is family, finances, health, and the 4 pillars of our lives. If any one of the pillars begins to fall, chances are all four will
Really
fall.
collapse, yeah.
You is the answer. Whether it's your finances, you've lost your job, whether it's your family, you have differences with your spouse, or your health is failing you. So what do you do? This is the way. This is the way. Learn how to manage your emotions. Learn how to use your emotions. Learn how to understand your emotions, and learn to. And that way, you will understand yourself, who you are. Once you know who
Self,
you are, then the rest will all fall into place.
yeah. The first value element is self-awareness. Then
Yes.
self-management
Right.
will come. Yeah.
Right. So, thank you so much, Dr. Chadda. Thank you so much, Vasanji. In fact, I've had a few private chats. People are dropping off. We are also sort of running out of time. So, I'll sort of wrap the session up. I think it was a very useful session to just understand why EQ is so important, and important to know the self, and also important, especially if I am an educator, how important it is to know my students, right from children up to college students and so on. So it's been wonderful talking to you, Vasanji. Thank you so much, and thank you, Dr. Chadda, for your contribution also, and for
Okay, thank
everybody else who participated and hung in there. We will try and make a recording of this available at a later point in time, and I will reach out to all of you. Vasanji has very magnanimously offered a reasonable discount on his book. I will sort of reach out to all of you and let you know how to go ahead and avail that discount. So thank you, everybody, and we will wrap it up here. Thank you so much.